Picture this. A Coast Guard search plane circles low over the Atlantic Ocean, scanning miles of debris floating in the aftermath of Hurricane Joaquin. Then, the pilot spots something that makes his blood run cold. A body, floating face down in a bright orange survival suit. They can see the person clearly through binoculars, but the seas are too violent to send down a rescuer. The pilot comes back when conditions improve, but when they return hours later, the body has vanished. So stow your tray tables, fasten your seatbelts, and prepare for some extreme turbulence, because this is Final Boarding Call. Oh, hello, and welcome to Final Boarding Call. I am your disaster-obsessed host, Alice.
And I am Zach. That's all we need to be.
Love it. Before we dive in, you, friend, listener, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And drop us a comment. I love reading the comments. It's one of my faves, one of my favorite things.
She tells me about everyone.
I do. And shoot us an email to finalboardingcallpodcast@gmail.com if you want some stickers.
Keep ordering merch because I am waiting for the day that we're just in an airport and see our shirt somewhere.
Oh my gosh, I would lose it. Yeah. I'd be unwell. All right, let's talk sources for this episode. So we have the National Transportation Safety Board's 282-page accident report. Just some light reading. The U.S. Coast Guard Marine Board of Investigation, the complete 510-page transcript of the ship's voyage data recorder, and Rachel Slade's deeply researched book, Into the Raging Sea. In case you couldn't pick up on this, Zach,
It's a helicopter.
No, it's not. It's not a flying thing that we're covering today. Let's dive in. September 29th, 2015. It's a warm Tuesday evening in Jacksonville, Florida. At Tote Maritime's shipping terminal, longshoremen are loading the final cargo containers onto a 790-foot vessel named El Faro, which is Spanish for the lighthouse. I know, which is really cool. The ship is 40 years old, built in 1975. She's made this run between Jacksonville and San Juan, Puerto Rico hundreds of times. It's called a milk run in maritime terms, which is a routine trip that crews can do in their sleep.
Everybody thinks that all the routine stuff is the easy stuff.
Is that when things go wrong?
Well, it seems to be. I mean, statistically, car crashes are going to happen within a mile of your home and
that's true.
All kinds of stuff. So yeah, the easier it seems, the more frequent things go wrong.
It's interesting. Well, tonight, El Faro is carrying 391 shipping containers stacked on deck and 294 trailers and cars in the cargo holds below. Consumer goods, frozen chickens, construction equipment heading to Puerto Rico. Total cargo weight is right around 14,000 tons.
It's a lot of pounds.
That's heavy. The crew boarding that evening represents 33 people. We have 28 Americans and 5 Polish contractors. Danielle Randolph was the second mate. She's 34 years old, living in Rockland, Maine. She'd dreamed of going to sea since she was a little girl and graduated from Maine Maritime Academy.
All right, then. She's got her dreams.
She's got her dreams. Her mother would later say that Danielle lived for the ocean. Before this voyage, Danielle sent an email to her mom, and this is what the email said. Heading straight for it, give my love to everyone. Frank Ham was an able seaman and...
Helmsworth.
Anyway, that's the person who actually steers the ship.
Oh, okay.
This is the ship steerer. A Jacksonville family man known as reliable, steady, someone who showed up for every shift without complaint. Then there were 5 Polish specialists who weren't even regular tote employees. And tote is the name of the shipping parent company, just so that we know. They were contractors hired to prepare the ship's engines for an upcoming reassignment to Alaska. Men like Peter Kreuze and Seen Nita, who'd flown in from Poland to work on a ship that they barely knew in waters very far from home. And at the helm was Captain Michael Davidson, 59 years old, a Maine Maritime Academy graduate himself, with over 11,000 hours of experience. He'd been sailing for over 3 decades. Competent, careful, and professional. But Captain Davidson was also under tremendous pressure. Just weeks before, he'd learned that Tote was passing him over for promotion to captain one of their brand new, high-tech, LNG-powered ships. LNG means liquefied natural gas.
Oh, I was going to say, let's not go.
Let's not go. And that's a cleaner burning fuel the newest vehicles were being built to run on. Instead, El Faro would soon be reassigned to Alaska service, far from his home and family in Maine. If he wanted to stay with Tote, he'd have to uproot his life or accept a demotion.
Less than ideal. Nobody likes those choices.
I know. There's a concept in maritime investigation called implicit pressure. Tote never sent Davidson an email saying, sail into the hurricane. But there was an understood expectation. Keep the schedule. Save fuel. Don't take expensive detours. Prove you're reliable. And for a captain fighting for his career, being known as someone who takes the long route around storms, that doesn't help your reputation. And we will soon realize why this is so important. At 8:10 p.m. on September 29th, El Faro steamed out of Jacksonville into the Atlantic. The weather forecast showed Tropical Storm Joaquin brewing several hundred miles to the east. It wasn't even a hurricane yet. It was just a tropical storm with winds right around 60 miles per hour.
That's it. No big deal.
Yeah. That still seems like a lot to me. Davidson reviewed the forecast and decided that their normal route would be fine. He told the crew that they'd be about 60 miles from the eye, and he wasn't hedging about it. As he put it, we are gonna be fine. But there was a problem. Technically, there were several problems. Ships at sea receive weather information through multiple systems. The junior officers on El Faro's bridge were watching something called Inmarsat C. Inmarsat C, which is a satellite-based text system that receives near real-time bulletins from the National Hurricane Center. It's like getting weather alert texts to your phone. It's basic, but it's current. Captain Davidson was relying on the Bon Voyage.
The Bon Voyage.
Bon Voyage system, or BVS. This commercial software took the National Hurricane Center's information and processed it into beautiful color-coded maps with predicted storm tracks, which sounds great in theory. except it had one catastrophic flaw.
It predicted the wrong direction.
The company had to process the data and create the graphics. The BVS maps were delivered via email in batches. And on the morning of October 1st, the map that Captain Davidson was looking at was 6 to 10 hours out of date. Yeah, so it was old. And when we're talking hurricanes, a lot can happen.
Yeah, they move fast.
6 to 10 hours. So hurricane forecasts are updated every 6 hours because storms can change rapidly. So if you are looking at data that's already 6 to 10 hours out of date, you are making life or death decisions based on where the hurricane was, not where it is. The junior officers were seeing current data, and the captain was seeing old data. And in a hurricane about to undergo rapid intensification, those few hours made all the difference. As El Faro steamed south through the night of September 29th, Hurricane Joaquin was doing exactly what Davidson's old weather maps said it wouldn't do. Instead of turning north toward the open Atlantic, it was tracking southwest directly into the ship's path. And it was getting much, much stronger. September 30th. By 8 a.m., Joaquin has officially become a hurricane, Category 1, with sustained winds of 75 miles per hour. The junior officers see this update on their text system that they're using, the Inmarsat-C. Captain Davidson makes a small course adjustment, shifting slightly southward to give the hurricane a wider berth. He is paying attention. He's being careful. But as the day progresses, something becomes increasingly obvious to everyone on the bridge. The hurricane is not following the forecast track. It's like, oh, you thought I was going to go this way?
Juke move.
Absolutely not. It is moving solidly southwest, directly toward them. And it's intensifying very quickly. By evening, Joaquin has exploded into a Category 3 hurricane.
Wow.
Winds 115 miles per hour. So this is referred to as rapid intensification. This is when a hurricane suddenly becomes much more powerful in a very short amount of time. It is rare, it is unpredictable, and because of that, it is extremely dangerous. Third mate Jeremy Ream is watching the latest forecasts with growing alarm. Jeremy was from Massachusetts. He's 46 years old, married with 2 kids. So this guy has a lot riding on safely making it to their destination. At 10:40 p.m. on September 30th, Jeremy calls Captain Davidson in his cabin. He reports that Joaquin's maximum winds have climbed to 100 miles per hour, that the storm is moving directly toward their track line, and he suggests that they divert south through Crooked Island Passage. Davidson's response is to stay the course. They'll be fine, he says. They are fast enough to get past it. 13 minutes later, Jeremy calls back and presses harder for a course change. Again, Davidson says no. They're committed. They'll make it. Now it's past midnight, so we're technically in October 1st. Second mate Danielle Randolph has relieved Jeremy for the night watch. She's also been studying the weather radar, and she's worried. At 1:20 a.m., she calls Davidson to tell him that it's not looking good. the storm is strengthening faster than predicted, and it's tracking almost directly toward them. And for the third time that night, Davidson dismisses the concern, and he reinforces that they are going to stay the course. This was the moment. At 1:20 a.m. on October 1st, El Faro still had room to maneuver. They could have turned west into the old Bahama Channel, a protected passage that would have added maybe 100 miles, but it would have kept them out of the hurricane's path. Or they could have simply turned back to Jacksonville. It would have delayed cargo by a day or two, but everyone would have lived.
We know what it's like when something's being shipped. We want our stuff.
Yeah. Instead, Davidson went back to his cabin. For 8 hours, from about 8 p.m. on September 30th until 4 a.m. on October 1st, the captain was not on the bridge as his ship sailed into the most powerful hurricane to hit the Bahamas in modern history. This is where we need to talk about bridge resource management. The idea that a ship is operated most safely when the entire crew works as a team. When junior officers feel empowered to speak up, and when captains actively solicit input. So Jeremy and Danielle spoke up. They called the captain 3 times with increasingly urgent warnings. They did so carefully, respectfully, with the difference that maritime culture demands. They didn't say, "Hey, Captain, we're sailing into a Category 3 hurricane, and if we don't turn around right now, we're all going to die." The investigation would later find that the rigid hierarchy on El Faro, where the captain's word was law, contributed massively to this disaster. As the night wore on, the seas began to build. By 2 a.m., El Faro was experiencing swells of 15 to 20 feet. This ship is leaning with it, rocking with it.
Don't do that.
Sorry. I know. And it's really not funny because this is a horrible tragedy, but I gotta do something because otherwise we're all just gonna be devastated. On the voyage data recorder, you can hear the tension building. At one point, Danielle cracks a dark joke about how today would be a perfect day for a fire and boat drill because nothing makes a crew check whether their survival suits actually fit like a storm rolling in. So this is like gallows humor. It's the kind of joke that you make when you are scared, but you are trying not to show it. By 4 a.m., conditions have deteriorated significantly. The swells are now 20 to 30 feet. Winds gusting over 80 miles per hour. Rain is lashing the bridge windows horizontally, and visibility is near zero. So Captain Davidson finally returns to the bridge.
Like, guys, what is going on? When did we run into this weather?
Oh, yeah. He says he's been sleeping like a baby for the past 8 hours.
Good for him.
He surveys the conditions and makes a catastrophically wrong assessment, comparing it to an ordinary day in Alaska. Except this ain't Alaska. This is a Category 3 hurricane, and it is rapidly intensifying into a Category 4. And El Faro is a 40-year-old ship. It's, this is not like
it's a recipe for not such good things.
Yeah, this is not some brand new state-of-the-art, super well-maintained ship that's ready to handle this sort of thing. Well, our ship is about to sail directly into the eye wall, the ring of ferocious winds and seas that surrounds the calm center of a hurricane, and what marks its most dangerous zone. They have less than 3 hours left. October 1st, 5:43 a.m. El Faro is now in serious trouble. The ship is rolling violently in massive seas. Waves are 30 to 40 feet high. Wind is screaming across the deck at over 100 miles per hour. Horizontal rain has reduced visibility to almost nothing. The phone rings on the bridge. It's the chief mate calling from the cargo holds with news of significant flooding in hold number 3. Captain Davidson sends the chief mate to investigate. Water is pouring into the cargo hold through something called a scuttle, which is essentially a small hatch, like a little manhole cover, that allows crew members to move between decks. In heavy weather, all scuttles are supposed to be secured, dogged down tight, as they call them, with metal clamps.
I love the terminology. Really
Yeah,
cool.
I feel like I'm one with the ocean after researching this one.
Just got dogged down.
Dogged down. Except I got super seasick last time I was on the ocean, so.
And it wasn't that bad.
Ugh. Yeah, this would do me in. Game over. But on El Faro, at least one scuttle was either left open or it came unsecured during the violent rolling. The ship is rolling heavily to starboard. That's code for leaning to the right. Massive waves wash across the second deck. Water rushes across the tilted deck and pours down through this open hatch like water going down a drain. Once water gets into the cargo hold, it creates free surface effect. So the water sloshes back and forth as the ship rolls, which makes the ship even more unstable.
Rolling.
Yes. And that makes it roll more, which then makes the water slosh even more violently. It is truly a vicious gravity cycle. Down in hold 3, there are dozens of cars and trailers secured with chains and lashings, but as the hold floods and the ship develops a severe list, a list being a persistent lean to one side, these vehicles are breaking free. That's how bad this lean is.
Wow.
That the cars are just like, okay.
You can't hold me.
No. So now, in addition to seawater floating around in there, we have cars and trucks.
Floating around in there.
Yes. They are crashing into bulkheads with each roll of the ship. Somewhere, in all of that chaos, investigators believe one of these floating vehicles struck the fire main piping, which is a large pipe carrying seawater for the fire suppression system. The pipe ruptures. Now, water pouring in through both the open scuttle and now a broken pipe is bad. The crew tries to pump it out using bilge pumps, and these are the pumps that clear water from the lowest part of the ship, but they cannot keep up. They're doing their best. The water level in hold 3 is rising, and it's rising quick. At 5:50 a.m., Captain Davidson tries to reduce the ship's list by altering course, but he accidentally makes things worse.
You steer right towards it or something?
The ship suddenly shifts and develops a severe list to port. So now it's leaning to the left. At one point, the list reaches 18 degrees, and anything over 15 degrees is considered dangerous. At 18 degrees, it is difficult to walk on the deck. That's how tilty this is. This is when the most critical mechanical failure occurs. El Faro was powered by a steam turbine. So these turbines require constant lubrication. like motor oil in your car engine. And this is your reminder.
Check your oil.
Check your oil. When was the last time you did an oil change? The lubrication oil is stored in a sump, a large pan at the bottom of the engine room. An intake pipe sits in this oil, and it pumps it up to lubricate the turbines. When the ship is level and the oil sits flat over the intake pipe, we're groovy. When the ship develops an 18-degree list, the oil all sloshes to one side, and suddenly the intake pipe isn't sitting in oil anymore. This is an issue that race cars can have.
So we create baffling.
We do. Yeah. Basically, it's starving. It's sitting in air, which is not what it wants to be sitting in. At 6:13 a.m., we are now at the 30-minute mark from when the flooding was first discovered. The lubrication oil pressure drops to 0. The engine's safety system initiates an emergency shutdown to prevent the turbine from destroying itself.
Makes sense.
The engineers scramble to restart it, but with the ship leaning so heavily, they can't keep oil flowing to the intake pipe. So every time they restart it, the engine shuts itself down. Exactly. El Faro loses all propulsion. The massive propeller stops turning. The ship slows, coasts, and stops making forward progress entirely. This is a death sentence. When a ship has engine power, the captain can keep the bow, which is the front, pointed into the waves. So the bow is the strongest part of the ship, and they are designed to be able to cut through waves, even fairly large ones. As long as you can keep the bow pointed into the waves, you have a fighting chance. But they have just lost
the ability
engine
to point.
Power.
Yeah.
Yes. You lose steering ability. So the ship becomes a dead object in the water, and the wind and the waves can push it wherever they want. A powerless ship will naturally turn beam to, which means that the side of the ship now faces the waves instead of the bow.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting to me. In my head, I get it, but I also don't, because how does it turn it so well if you were pointing straight at it? You don't have that much surface area for the wave to crash against, but somehow it does it.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you turn sideways, the waves will knock you over every time, and that is what is happening to El Faro. These massive 30 to 40 foot waves are hitting the broad, flat side of the ship, and it is rolling it violently from side to side. At 7 a.m., the situation is desperate. At 7:06 a.m., Captain Davidson calls the company to report a marine emergency, a hull breach, a scuttle blown open, water down in hold 3, a heavy list, and the loss of the main propulsion unit. The crew was safe, he said, and they were trying to save the ship, but they were not gaining ground. The pumps are running at full capacity. The crew is doing everything they can, but the water is coming faster than they can pump it out.
So at this point, they're just delaying rather than fixing.
Yeah, it's not. It's bad. It's bad. At 7:15 a.m., the chief mate returns with a grim report. The water level is rising. The cars are floating now in hold 3. They're just floating. And the fire main is now below the surface. Outside, El Faro is now in the eye wall of Hurricane Joaquin, a Category 4 hurricane, with sustained winds of 115 to 120 miles per hour. The waves have built to 40 feet or higher.
I am curious.
Get out.
I'm curious how high the deck height is on the ship. Obviously, they're huge ships, and I know there's plenty of feet until you're down at water level.
Yeah.
But It's also not impossible to have the waves high enough to be crashing over the top onto the deck either. So I'm curious at what point that happens.
So the ship was not that tall. It was long, and it was pretty wide. But its molded depth, which is the vertical distance from the keel to the top of the upper deck, was 42 feet.
Okay. Yeah, that's about what I would expect.
Yeah. While its main mast stood 35 feet tall. So it isn't like a massively tall cruise ship. It's more low and flat.
It's still tall in the same aspect of a cruise ship as like base deck height, not all of the rooms stacked on top.
Yeah. This is what it looks like, just so you have an idea of like what we're talking about.
Yeah, I kind of figured.
Yeah. Like it's a big ass cargo ship.
Yeah. Cargo. Car no go.
Cargo.
But in this case, the cargo.
For now. Okay. There's something else happening that nobody knows about.
They don't need another issue.
They've got another issue. Water is also entering through ventilation trunks. So there are large ducts that allow air to circulate into the cargo holds. There are supposed to be baffles, metal plates, that close off these vents in rough water to prevent water from getting in. But on El Faro, these baffles were left open. They are open. So water isn't just coming in through the broken fire main and the open scuttle, which we know about, but now it's also pouring in through these ventilation ducts every time a wave washes over the deck. And as we just brought up,
they washing
over the deck. The ship is taking on water from multiple sources at once, and the crew has no idea where it's all coming from. At 7:24 a.m., Captain Davidson rings the general alarm. 2 minutes later, he gives the abandoned ship order. Get into the rafts, throw all the rafts into the water. Everybody off, stay together.
Easier said than done in this situation with those kinds of winds and waves.
They're in the middle of a Category 4 effing hurricane.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? Winds over 100 miles per hour. Waves 40 to 50 feet high. The air is so thick with spray salt and sea water that you are unable to even breathe. Like, it's like being underwater. These are not the conditions where lifeboats can be successfully launched.
At least not organized.
No. Absolute chaos. How do you even find a lifeboat? You can't see. El Faro's lifeboats are open lifeboats. They are the same type that were used on the Titanic, which took place 100 years before this story. We haven't gotten any better in our lifeboat technology. They are essentially large rowboats. In calm seas, they work great. In a hurricane, they are worse than useless. They are an open boat, and they will be flipped, and they will be destroyed. If El Faro had modern enclosed lifeboats, which are sealed capsules designed to withstand severe weather, some of the crew may have had a chance. But the Coast Guard had grandfathered in older ships, allowing them to keep their old equipment rather than upgrading it to newer, safer lifeboats.
That's how it goes on almost everything.
That's stupid. The ship is listing so severely that launching anything is damn near impossible. On the bridge, Captain Davidson and the helmsman, Frank Ham, are trapped. The list is so extreme that Frank can't climb up the slanted deck to even reach the exit door.
Wow.
The voyage data recorder captures these final moments. Frank is understandably panicking. He says, "I need a ladder, a line." And then Davidson tells him, "You're okay, come on." And Frank says, "I need someone to help me." And then Davidson says, work your way up here. I'm not leaving you. Let's go. Frank says, I can't. I'm a goner. And Davidson, a man who's made every wrong decision today in this moment, does one thing right. No, you're not, Davidson says firmly. I'm not leaving you. Let's go. In the background, alarms are blaring. You can hear the sound of rushing water, and the ship is actually audibly groaning.
Yeah, the tweaking of metal and all the stuff as it's twisting and contorting a little bit.
Totally, yes. Mm-hmm. At 7:39 a.m., there's a building rumble. Captain Davidson shouts one last time, it's time to come this way. And then the recording ends. The voyage data recorder loses power as water floods the electronics. The ship's bow went under first. Water rushed into the forward cargo holds, pulling the bow down faster. The stern lifted out of the water as the ship began to sink, bow first. El Faro went down fast. From the time the recording stopped to when the ship settled on the ocean floor was most likely less than 2 minutes.
Wow.
The ship fell 15,000 feet, nearly 3 miles, before it hit the seafloor. At approximately 7:45 a.m. on October 1st, 2015, the SS El Faro and all 33 people aboard disappeared into the Atlantic Ocean.
I know that this is unrelated, but it's stories like these where I'm genuinely just like, why does anybody crave the ocean so bad? The ocean will just eat you. It doesn't care.
That is
I don't want to
fair.
be there.
You also crashed a car into a wall going 100 miles an hour.
And
like
nothing
a week
bad
ago.
happened.
Yeah, but people would look at you and be like, yeah, to my own each. October 2nd, 2015, a massive search operation is underway. For the next 7 days, the U.S. Coast Guard, Navy, Air Force, and National Guard comb more than 183,000 square nautical miles of ocean, an area larger than the state of California.
Wow.
That is an insane search.
Yeah, that's a heck of an effort.
Huge kudos to that search operation. Searchers find debris scattered across hundreds of square miles. Life rings with El Faro printed on them. Cargo containers, survival suits, some still in their packaging. On October 5th, a helicopter crew spots a body floating in an orange survival suit. But the seas are too violent to send down a rescue swimmer. They mark the coordinates and promise to return. And when they come back later that day, the body is gone. It is the only body that will ever be spotted. The other 32 crew members remain with their ship 3 miles down. Also on October 5th, searchers find one of El Faro's 2 lifeboats. It is heavily damaged. In fact, it is crushed. It's empty, and the other lifeboat is never found. On October 7th, the Coast Guard officially calls off the search. The investigation now shifts to a different question. Where is this ship? The National Transportation Safety Board needs to find one specific piece of equipment. What is their favorite?
It's not a black box in this thing.
No, but you're right.
Yeah.
It's the maritime
Transponder,
equivalent,
GPS, all the
which
stuff.
they call the VDR. So the VDR is about the size of a basketball. It is mounted on the ship's mast. It has 6 microphones that record every conversation, alarm, every sound on the bridge, and it also records navigation data, engine parameters, and radar images. So it's going to give us a pretty decent picture of what happened on this ship. If investigators can recover it, they'll have a complete record of El Faro's final hours. But there is a problem.
It's 3 miles down below the surface of the ocean.
Yeah, it's 15,000 feet below. For a record, folks, that's deeper than the Titanic sunk. That's deep. At that depth, water pressure is approximately 6,600 pounds per square inch. So it is like having 3 elephants standing on every square inch of your body. It is really difficult to retrieve anything from that depth. And if you're curious about what can go wrong, please listen to our Ocean Gate Titan episode where we follow an ambitious inventor as he attempts to go down that far. Spoiler alert, it doesn't end well. On October 19th, the U.S. Navy sends USNS Apache, which is a specialized salvage ship, to search for the wreck. For 10 days, Apache methodically scans the area, talking like my New Jersey grandmother there, with sophisticated sonar. On October 31st, exactly 1 month after the sinking, Apache finds something. It's a large object, approximately 790 feet long, and it is sitting upright on the seafloor.
Oh, interesting.
They send down a remotely operated vehicle, also known as an ROV. It's an unmanned submersible controlled from the surface, and it's got cameras. It descends...
And little pinchy claws.
Pinchy claws. I don't know if it does, but man, it's really cute to picture it with little pinchy claws.
How are they supposed to grab things if it doesn't have pinchy claws?
If you know a lot about ROVs, leave a comment. If you design ROVs for a living, so the ROV, an unmanned submersible controlled from the surface with cameras, it descends for hours through total darkness until it reaches the sea floor. Its lights illuminate the wreck. And guess what?
They found it.
It was El Faro.
Oh.
I mean, I don't know what else could
And the
be
Meg.
790 feet long, chilling on the bottom of the ocean floor.
Plot twist. Imagine that was a carcass of an animal that lives that deep.
A megalodon?
Or something else.
How long were megalodons?
I don't know, only like 40 feet or whatever.
What?
30 feet.
Okay, let's see.
At least 12 feet. It has nothing to do
80
with this.
feet.
Okay, fine.
Megalodons were 80 feet long.
My bad.
Okay. Anyway.
It's been a while since I've seen one. Sorry, guys. We get off on tangents sometimes.
Oh, no. Okay, so it's the ship. The hull is largely intact, and it is sitting upright. So I take that to mean that it looks like it's floating. It looks like a normal ship.
Yeah, it didn't toss on its
just
side or
laying on the bottom of the ocean. Yeah. But the bridge, the entire top section, including where the crew quarters would be, has been torn away. It's resting separately, about half a mile from the main wreck. The violence of the sinking ripped the superstructure right off the hull. And somewhere in that debris field is the VDR that we desperately need. So the Navy searches, and they cannot find it. The entire mast structure has collapsed into a tangle of steel and cables and debris. And ultimately, the Apache returns to port, having found the wreckage, but not recovering what we really need. In April 2016, so this is 6 months after the sinking, a second expedition launches using the research vessel Atlantis, which I love that name. I love the movie. Let's go. And this is from Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution.
I'm not helping you right now.
I hate this
because
game.
this is hilarious.
Oceanographic. institution. Woof. Put it on a t-shirt. They use Sentry, which is an autonomous underwater vehicle that maps the seafloor in incredible detail. So Sentry creates a 3D map of every piece of wreckage. This is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Wild. The team identifies 150 potential targets. These are objects that are the same
Size-ish.
as the VDR. They have to visit every single one of them.
Unless they find it right away.
Oh my gosh. That would be they just go down, they're like, they pick up the first one, they're like,
oh, found it.
Here we go. So 5 days into the mission, the ROV's light illuminates something. It's a strip of reflective tape, the kind used to mark emergency equipment. The ROV crawls its little way
like a little
over,
spider.
Except I think it's a submarine.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay. It is the VDR, and it is still attached to a section of the mast. It's buried under cables and debris, but they found it. So they can't risk damaging it. The data inside is so important, so they need more specialized equipment. Yay!
Just extend the budget.
Okay, Zach, we're coming back for a third time. Third time is the charm. In August of 2016, 10 months after the sinking, the USNS Apache returns, and this time they're bringing a Curve 21, CURV 21. This is a specialized ROV, and this one has arms.
Pinchies.
It does. It has powerful manipulator arms. Over several days, it carefully cuts away the cables surrounding the VDR. How sick is that?
It's wild.
Finally, on August 8th of 2016, the VDR is free, and it is brought up to the surface. Inside is a circuit board about the size of a credit card, and that contains 2 memory chips. These 2 tiny chips contain 26 hours of audio, every word spoken.
That's wild.
On El Faro's bridge, from departure in Jacksonville to the moment that recording stopped. It's one of the most important pieces of evidence in maritime accident investigation history. Voices from 3 miles beneath the ocean, the last words of 33 people who never came home. The NTSB spends months analyzing the data. They also inspect El Faro's sister ship, the SS El Yunque. It's spelled Yunque. Anyways, these ships are identical twins. They were built at the same time, maintained by the same company. If there were If there were systemic problems with El Faro, its twin would likely have the same issues. Mm-hmm. When Coast Guard inspectors board El Yunque in 2016, they are floored, and not in a good way. The ventilation trunks, the ducts that allow air into the cargo holds, are severely corroded.
They don't close no more.
No, there's what investigators call wastage. The metal is so rusted and thin that it is barely functional. Mm. The watertight baffles that are supposed to seal these vents during heavy weather, most of them do not work. Some of them are just stuck open, like, sorry, here we are. And others are so corroded that they wouldn't hold back any water, even if they were closed.
It all makes sense.
For investigators, this is a smoking gun. El Faro almost certainly had the same problems. And during the hurricane, water was not just coming in through open scuttle and broken fire main. it was coming in through these corroded, unsealed ventilation trunks. The findings are so severe that Tote immediately takes El Yunque out of service. Instead of converting it for Alaska trade, the ship is scrapped because it is literally too dangerous to be on the water.
It's like none of this stuff works anymore. Just get rid of it.
Yeah. So this forces investigators to confront a very uncomfortable truth. If that ship wasn't seaworthy, El Faro
was probably never seaworthy.
Was probably not seaworthy at all. It passed inspections, it had all of the right certifications, but the ship was in substandard condition and it shouldn't have been sailing. So how did a ship in such poor condition keep passing inspections? El Faro was inspected under the Alternate Compliance Program, the
grandfathered in rules.
Instead of Coast Guard inspectors examining every detail, the Coast Guard authorizes third-party organizations, known as classification societies, to conduct most inspections. The Classification Society for El Faro was the American Bureau of Shipping, or ABS. The ABS inspectors would come aboard annually to certify the ship as seaworthy. So in theory, this should work fine, but in practice, it broke down completely. The NTSB found that ABS inspectors repeatedly missed or overlooked serious deficiencies. Obviously, as I have told you, there were serious problems, and the Coast Guard's oversight of ABS was also inadequate. So the Coast Guard is also a little bit to blame for this. Those inspectors were supposed to randomly audit ABS inspections, and they just didn't. They didn't. The oversight system simply was not functioning. Then there's TOTE, which is totes not good. The investigation found that TOTE's safety management system was, in the NTSB's words, inadequate, reflecting a weak safety culture. They love that phrase.
Weak safety culture?
Yeah, that comes up in a lot of investigations. TOTE didn't have procedures for maintaining watertight integrity during heavy weather. They didn't have adequate training for severe storm operations. They didn't have anyone monitoring where their ships were or providing guidance to captains about storm avoidance. I mean, did you ever think about that? Like, wasn't somebody telling this captain, hey,
we need to get out of here.
Maybe it's me from your management company. Get the hell out of there. The reason that didn't happen is because nobody was doing that. And on the night that El Faro was sailing into Hurricane Joaquin, nobody at TOTE headquarters was tracking the ship's position relative to the storm.
They're off doing a run because it was a milk run.
And finally, the NTSB's final determination found that the probable cause was the captain.
Yeah.
The captain's insufficient action to avoid Hurricane Joaquin, his failure to use the most current weather information, and his late decision to muster the crew. So they found some contributing factors: ineffective bridge resource management, TOTE's inadequate safety oversight, obviously the flooding. There was a lot of stuff. So this wasn't just one person's failure.
Correct.
It was a systemic breakdown across multiple levels.
It's just, unfortunately, they should have never been in that position, and that was where the ultimate decision lays.
Yeah.
Lies.
Lees. The families of El Faro's crew waited more than a year before they understood what happened in their loved ones' final hours. When the NTSB released the 510-page VDR transcript in December of 2016, some families read it and found a painful relief in finally knowing, and others could never bring themselves to relive their family members' last words. The legal aftermath was complicated. Tote initially filed for limitation of liability, and this is a maritime law that allows ship owners to cap their financial responsibility, which I think is nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess the thought there is to keep them from becoming bankrupt over an incident. And they went on to settle with many of the families, though these were amounts that left a number of them feeling the company had bought its way out of a public trial. The deaths, however, did drive real change. Congress passed legislation requiring all cargo ships to carry float-free voyage data recorders. So these are units that automatically detach from a sinking ship and they float to the surface.
With a GPS beacon.
They broadcast a beacon, exactly. Yeah. So no future investigation requires a year-long deep sea voyage to try and recover. The same reforms pushed improvements in how weather data reaches ships.
Oh.
So it was an end to grandfathering old open-top lifeboats, which was a big sticking point for me. All of the lifeboats need to be sealed, enclosed capsules that can survive hurricanes. And tighter Coast Guard oversight of the classification societies. So today there are memorials in Jacksonville, San Juan, Rockland, Maine, and in Poland, where the 5 Polish crew members are remembered. And every year, on October 1st, families gather to remember the 33. And the wreck is still on the bottom of the ocean.
As far as tech goes, I mean, there may be plenty of ways to get down to the floor, but to recover all of that is just not realistic.
Nope. Well, Zach, that is our story for today.
Well, I don't like water, I don't like boats, and I don't like this story.
I'm sorry. It's not a happy story. The story's horrifying and terrifying.
Yeah,
like those
real
last
unfortunate.
Few hours. Oh my gosh, awful. It's like, I don't know, in many ways, I feel like it's almost worse than a plane just like catastrophically something happening, because you have
answers.
Hours of the panic and the like, are we going to sink? Are we going to sink? And you have to still work through that. I know this is a little different than our typical airline disasters, but we do try to spice it up every couple episodes. So if you enjoyed this episode, let us know.
Yeah. Do the ratings, do the reviews, leave comments. Everybody see if you can find a pineapple in this episode. We do enjoy that too.
That is hilarious. And join us next time when we will be exploring another transportation disaster story. Until then, remember to stow your tray tables, fasten your seat belts, and prepare for the unexpected, because not every trip reaches its final destination.
Goodbye.
Bye.